Hey, what is happening, guys? How are you all doing? This is Rob of Ro2R Review. Welcome back to the channel. And boy, oh boy, we got to get into this pretty big topic today. Let's discuss a little bit of what's happening with Sony and the cross-play situation not working with Nintendo or Microsoft. So unfortunately, I am pretty busy today just coming home from work, so I'm not able to get myself on camera and do the normal kind of face cam video thing. So apologies for that. I know I don't try to do gameplay videos too often. I don't really like to do them two in a row, but that's just kind of how it worked out this time. I was a little bit too busy to set up the whole kind of thing, but I do want to talk about this topic because it's such a big deal, and quite a few people, when I asked on Twitter what you wanted me to talk about today, quite a few people mentioned this as a topic. Everyone's chiming in. It is a big deal. So I did still want to make the time to discuss this. So I'm sure the story doesn't need too much of an introduction from you guys. Everyone is very aware of what's going on, but the kind of quick sort of catching up to the scenario is what's happening right now with Sony. And due to the fact that Fortnite was just recently announced at E3 to be coming to the Nintendo Switch, and everyone was excited, I was excited, I have since downloaded and played the game a little bit, and I think it's okay. But with that happening, it's a big deal. A lot of people play that game. A lot of people were excited to have it on a new device. And one of the coolest things about that game so far has been that you've been able to move your account with Epic Games, the developer of the game, from platform to platform. And a lot of people were playing it on their mobile phones or their PC or their Xbox. Along comes the Nintendo Switch, and a lot of people downloaded it for the Switch because it also operates as a portable device, so everything about that game made so much sense for the console, and a lot of people have been excited, like I said, myself included. But what a lot of people noticed is gamers who had been playing the game already on the PlayStation 4 and established their Epic account for Fortnite on the PlayStation 4, which includes all of their gameplay progress as well as their credit card information and all of the things and the items, and I think they're called V-Bucks, the things that people have purchased in the game. They're already existing on that PlayStation 4 version, but once they tried to move on over to the brand new Nintendo Switch version, suddenly it became apparent that Sony is not allowing you to move your Epic account associated with your PlayStation 4 version of the game to any other platform, and that does include the Nintendo Switch. And so, long story short, it basically just brings us back to the whole crossplay situation. And this has already been kind of a known issue in gaming for a while, at least the last year or two, as we started to realize that, hey, PC, Xbox, and Nintendo, everyone's kind of been playing together in this whole crossplay situation for a lot of games that have already released and for games that require it. But Sony has not been cool with this. Sony has notoriously not allowed crossplay with their consoles, and it's been a little bit of a stink. A lot of people have been upset about it and not a big fan. With this new situation with Fortnite specifically, again, Fortnite here is not the first game where gamers have run into the fact that Sony doesn't allow crossplay, but it's the biggest story, and mostly because of the Epic Games situation, like I said, where not only can you just not play with PlayStation gamers, people already have Epic accounts and Fortnite accounts and progress and purchased items with their real in-world money existing on their PlayStation 4 version of Fortnite. So that wall between the PlayStation version of Fortnite and all of the other versions, which, like I said, does include the Nintendo Switch and the Microsoft Xbox, suddenly that line between these versions feels like a bigger line, and it creates a bigger issue because of everyone's invested time and money into their original version. At this point, everyone and their mom has already talked about this. Everyone has tweeted about this. A lot of people have made videos, including a lot of good friends of mine and fellow people in the community. So you guys have probably really kind of dived into this topic a little bit, but people still mentioned that they liked the idea of me discussing it as well. People wanted to hear what I had to say, like I said earlier when I asked on Twitter what you guys wanted me to talk about. So let me get into my feelings on this a little bit. I mean, and they're all over, really, because this is a big issue. And what's funny to me personally, just to Rob, is even though I know it's a big issue, the funny part is, to me, it's actually not a huge issue. That doesn't mean I don't acknowledge the problem, and I think that the problem shouldn't exist, so don't get me wrong. But I don't know, there's just so many angles to come at this from, it's hard to know where to get started. I guess I have to say, on the surface, kind of disregarding my personal opinion here, on the surface, this really, I think, is the problem that it's been made out to be. You know, people are upset because when you already invest time and money on something that should be ubiquitous across other platforms because other platforms are making that available, that makes the company preventing it kind of a little bit more of a jerk. I mean, Sony is really being not cool by not playing ball here. And I think it's bad PR, it's bad for the gamer, it's bad for the experience. I think it also speaks to Epic Games a little bit as well, you guys. I think that it's not like I want to necessarily throw this huge shitstorm Epic's way, because I like Epic and I think they've obviously made a very good game that people like. But we can't pretend like they're completely absolved of guilt here. Like, Epic would also have had to enter into this agreement and this deal with their Sony PlayStation 4 version of Fortnite to say, okay, we're going to make Fortnite on XYZ console. Here comes the PlayStation 4 version. Sony is telling us part of what we're not going to allow is crossplay or moving your Epic Games account from one system to another. And Epic Games would have had to have ultimately been okay with that, you guys. And man, it's just the more I talk about it, actually, the more frustrated I kind of get with some of the details, because I do feel like there should be a situation where, okay, if Sony doesn't want crossplay to be allowed, that's one thing. Sony is going to say, okay, if you play on the PlayStation 4 version, you're not going to be seeing Nintendo Switch and Xbox One gamers, and people who play on those consoles are not going to see PlayStation 4 gamers. Like, you can separate, you can create that divide between the gamers online, and that's one thing. It is a problem, but I think it's less of a problem. But Sony has unfortunately gone the extra mile to also prevent, as I've said several times already, the moving of your account and the funds that you've already spent on different things and items in progress. And so it's just, man, it is really kind of just that much more frustrating. And Sony creates this problem, Epic Games kind of right alongside them, and it's inhibiting the player experience, it's inhibiting the Fortnite experience, and we can't pretend like this isn't also really, really bad PR. And that's what we've seen in the wake of this with, like I said, all the tweets, all the comments, all the YouTube videos, people talking about it on their Twitch streams of the game. I mean, the PR going out towards Sony and towards the Fortnite sort of world and community right now is pretty negative and toxic, and it is a situation that Sony and their weird anti-crossplay practices have created. And I have to admit that that's a huge problem, and I think that eventually they need to kind of own up to it. Part of the issue here is, for the most part, Sony has remained pretty silent on this. I think they might have put one quote or something out, but it was nothing of consequence because I can't even remember what it was. Essentially, it's just kind of like, well, Bob's your uncle. This is the way it is. Sony's made this choice. They don't feel like they're in a position to have to be swayed to change this. Epic Games, unfortunately, seems to not be in a position of power to change this. And so this is kind of just the way the Fortnite situation has to be, I guess. So the next thing I want to touch on here is my personal opinion. And like I already alluded to, my personal opinion is, A, I think this is dumb and stupid and wrong of Sony, and I think it is going to hurt their PR absolutely, like I just said. But B, I kind of just don't really care too much about this. But my perspective doesn't necessarily share everyone's perspective, because I've only ever played this game on the Nintendo Switch. I don't have this version of the game on the PlayStation 4 that I've invested time, progress, and money into. I'm sure that if I did, and if I liked Fortnite enough to do that, I would be even more angry. But I can only speak from myself and say, from Rob's perspective, while I acknowledge the problem, and I think Sony and Epic Games should fix it, it's not really making me personally upset. I am more upset in the name of my fellow gamer. You know, like, I'm upset for you guys out there. I feel your pain. I want your problem to be fixed because I care about you guys and my fellow gamer having the right experience, but it's not affecting me. And for two reasons. One is because, like I said, I don't have a PlayStation 4 Epic account, so it's just kind of whatever. And the other reason is, I mean, honestly, like, Fortnite's fine, but I don't really love it. Like, the first day, I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. It's a lot of fun. Now I'm kind of understanding what the gameplay loop is, and I suck at the game, but I have slowly gotten just a little bit better. But honestly, now that it's been a week or so, and I tried turning it on again the other night and playing, actually, this was last night, and played another round, and I'm like, you know what? I don't really think that I care for this. I'm not against it, and I think I'll probably still continue to turn it on every once in a while, but it's this crazy phenomenon. We all understand the huge situation surrounding all the Twitch streamers. Everyone's making money. Everyone's getting famous. Fortnite, everyone's playing it. They're making trillions and trillions of dollars. It's on every device imaginable. Like, it's a big deal. It's a huge phenomenon. And for myself, I'm like, you know, I started to get there in the first day or two, but now I kind of think it's a little bit too paper thin of an experience, and it doesn't work for me as much. I do, like I said, I do enjoy it, so I'm not totally crapping on it. I just don't think that I feel addicted to it, you know? And the gameplay loop to me doesn't feel really engaging. I get kind of bored with it after really just a couple of minutes. I also get really stressed out. Let me tell you guys, just the person I am, the walk of life I'm coming from, I don't know what it is, but playing that game kind of also gives me anxiety. The whole shrinking map thing, it is a cool mechanic, and it does make for the Battle Royale thing to feel very different than like normal team death matches and other multiplayer games, but it also just stresses me out, you guys. It's actually almost kind of funny, because I almost go into panic attack mode, like, where am I on the map? When is the thing closing? When is it going to start? How close is it to me? I gotta run. Like, I just want to go right to the center of the map right away every time. I'm not really experiencing that game in that map because I'm too nervous and freaked out about the shrinking map thing. And it's really just kind of like a funny, silly problem to have. It's not like it's a problem actually with Fortnite, but it just goes to show how I'm just less attached to the game overall. So having this problem exist, while I see it as a problem for the larger gaming community, it's just not ruining my day. It's not ruining Rob's game time or Rob's Fortnite time, because I'm just not going to play it that much longer. But the last thing I want to talk about here is some of the implications to this and what I think it could really mean for Sony to continually be so anti-crossplay. And again, I know I've already mentioned this once or twice, but Fortnite, again, is not the first instance of this happening. I mean, Minecraft and Rocket League are two other games that jump to mind as recent examples of games that do exist on the Xbox One and the Nintendo Switch and the PC, and all three of those platforms can play those games together. I'm sure there's even another one. I might be kind of brain farting here, but those are the other two recent and big ones, very high profile games that are already this way. And Sony, the PlayStation 4, you cannot play Minecraft or Rocket League right alongside Fortnite. You can't play those games with the other platforms. Everyone else is having fun with this crossplay thing, and it seems to be the future of gaming, and hooray, and everyone's having a good old party. And Sony is over here just holding this crown of shame, and they're just like, yeah, we're not cool enough to play with you guys or let you play with us, so, you know, nanny nanny boo boo, you can't do it. I guess part of the whole situation here is we maybe ask ourselves, why? Why is Sony being this way? Why are they so against crossplay in this situation? And the only answer I can think of, I'm sure a lot of you guys might agree with this here, the only answer I can think of is they just simply don't have to. It's because they're winning this race, if you want to call it a quote race, which it kind of is, and they're in the lead, they're very comfortable, they're making a lot of money, they're the #1 platform on the market right now, they're still selling incredibly well, no immediate signs of slowing down. Fortnite itself, for example, has done incredibly, insanely well on the PlayStation 4. And I think that, honestly, it's just a little bit of hubris on Sony's part. They know that they're the kings. They know they can't be touched. And they feel, again, I'm guessing here. I'm not saying they've said this, but I'm just guessing. They probably feel like they don't have to lend out a helping hand to their competitors. They're not obligated to play ball because it's only a win for Nintendo or Microsoft if they get to play ball with the PlayStation 4. It is not a win for Sony if they get to play ball with the Switch or the Xbox. That's probably the way they're looking at it. They're like, the Switch and the Xbox One get a leg up if they get to do crossplay with the PlayStation 4. Sony probably sees it as a leg down because they're only aiding their competitors and they get nothing out of it. There's no immediate benefit or gain to the PlayStation 4 or to Sony as a company for allowing this crossplay. It's only the other guys, and I think that they probably just don't want to help the other guys. And like, it's weird because I think it's wrong and a problem for a couple of reasons, but I also can't entirely fault that line of thinking. And that may be hard to hear or hard for some people to accept, but in all reality, like when you think business is business, that's kind of what they're doing. They're conducting what they think is smart business, and I'd have to agree with them if that's the case, because it's not adversely hurting them necessarily not to do it, and they certainly don't want to help their competition. So what are the long-term effects here? Let's talk about this to end this video. What are the long-term effects, especially for Sony, specifically for not continuing to allow crossplay and continuing to create this wall for Fortnite gamers with their Epic Games account that's like legit locked in and tied to their PlayStation 4. Honestly, this might be a shocker, guys. There are problems, there is damage to be done, but I feel like long-term, sadly, I think the damage is going to be pretty minimal here. I mean, and it's kind of for what I was just saying a minute ago here. Sony is in the lead, and their lead is very comfortable. And I think that no matter how much damage to the PR is done with this Fortnite thing, I don't think it's going to matter. I think people who have been playing Fortnite on their PS4, if they can't continue to game with it on their other consoles, many people will probably still continue to play it on the PlayStation 4. So Epic and Sony will continue to make money on the PlayStation 4 version of Fortnite. And even if we step away from Fortnite and we step away from the lack of crossplay with games like Minecraft and Rocket League, honestly, I mean, people are going to be mad. People are going to talk crap to Sony. People are going to get really angry and send mean tweets. but I don't think it's going to hurt their bottom line. And that's the only way I think this would actually make a difference and have a long-term effect on Sony. Whether it's a negative effect or a positive effect that convinces them to change their practices, I just don't personally see that happening. Now, I want it to happen, so don't mistake my words here, guys. I want this to happen because I do acknowledge it as a problem, but let's be realistic, man. It's not going to hurt the PlayStation 4. It's not going to hurt Sony. It's not going to hurt the sales. It's not going to hurt Fortnite. It's just not. So I think that in another 2 months, this is going to be old news, and Sony will still be riding high, selling PlayStation 4s like crazy. People are still going to be downloading and playing Fortnite on the PlayStation 4. Other versions, people playing other versions are going to continue to enjoy those and gaming with each other. PlayStation gamers are just going to be playing that game with PlayStation gamers, but there's millions of PlayStation gamers playing Fortnite, so I just don't think it's going to hurt anyone. They'll still be making money on microtransactions, and it is going to be what it is, and I don't think that there's going to be any change to the situation, and I don't see a world where this convinces Sony to change this practice. I think they believe in this model, and it's probably always going to be this way. I mean, the worst thing that's going to happen for Sony out of this, I've already said, it's just bad PR for a while. Some temporary mean tweets, and, you know, I'm going to be probably one of the last people here a few days later making a video on this topic, and probably after that, no more YouTube videos, no more people talking about it. People are still going to be playing Fortnite on Twitch and making a bunch of money, and people are going to become famous, and no one's going to care that the PlayStation 4 doesn't let you crossplay. Like, that's my guess and my theory over how this is going to play out. We're all mad right now. It's a problem right now. Sony is making a very bad anti-consumer decision without question, but it's going to blow over soon. They're not going to change their practices, and Sony is still going to be the king of this generation. So those are my thoughts. I don't mean to kind of end it on like a bummer of an opinion, but that's really kind of where the conversation ends, and it's where it leads to. Like, personally, I think that conversation happens just how I had it. We wrap up with the idea of what's the long-term effect, and I just don't see it having a long-term negative effect, even though I wish it would, so that Sony would be convinced to change its mind. But in the same way, Nintendo is continually not convincing itself to change its mind on, like, YouTube practices, for example. I think there's going to be nothing to convince Sony to do it with their crossplay. And it's just, for now, it's going to be what it is. Is crossplay the way of the future? Maybe. Maybe in 5 or 10 years with another console generation or two, maybe it becomes the ubiquitous future and all of the consoles do it. I think eventually Sony might let their guard down on a PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation 6, but in the immediate future for the PlayStation 4 and the right here and now, no way, man. I just don't think not even this Fortnite debacle is going to change their mind. So those are my thoughts and opinions. Like I said, a lot to say. This is a big, big topic, and people really care. So it was fun to discuss, considering the fact that I don't really care about Fortnite and I don't really care about crossplay, but still, I had a lot of opinions because I know you guys really care about this, and it is an interesting topic. So what do you guys think? How do you feel about this? Are you mad at Sony? Are you not mad? Do you love Fortnite? Do you hate it? Do you think this is a long-term problem? Do you not think it's a long-term problem? All opinions are welcome here as always. That is it for me today. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Ro2R Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.